I'm back. So I got the covers here. I've already dug into it. I don't know if y'all can see it, but I've already dug into it. And I got the I have the slaw here. And I got my sweet tea. So anyway, I wanted to start a new video because I wanted to talk about something. How God blessed me with my late husband, and I know I talk about him all the time, y'all. I still miss him, of course I do. You know, it's been 3 years, and I really do. I think about him a lot, and you know, I say, Lord, I just thank you for his life. You know, his 49 years here on earth. I didn't know him all of those 49 years, but I'm still thankful to have met him and married him. And you know, when we're looking for a spouse, or we asking God to send us somebody to marry, you know, you want somebody who's gonna be, you know, there was a time you say, you know, I want somebody just like my daddy. Well, I didn't want nobody like my daddy. Neither one, the stepdad or the biological dad. But I wanted somebody better than him. But and I don't mean it in a bad, mean way. But I'm being honest. But anyway, I grew up around, you know, a lot of single women. You know, I can make it on my own, or I don't need no man. You know, that's all I used to hear. And I can make it, you know, and it seemed like the women, all of them struggle. They all struggle. And I remember in one in particular, my mom, one of her sisters, she was married, and she had two men that fathered her children. She was married to one, I believe they were married, and the other one, I don't think they ever got married. But anyway, the reason I'm sharing that is because she seemed like, to me, growing up, you know, we go visit, it seemed like she was just so independent and so strong-willed, and, you know, sort of didn't really want nobody to tell her what to do, you know, so to speak. And I believe that's what the reason the marriage didn't last, you know, because he was like, you know, hey, what am I here for? I can't remember how long they were together, but this thing, the family knew they were getting a divorce, and you know, he seemed like he happier than he ever been. And she's, you know, she back single. But you know, a lot of times how we are raised and we're reared, it's not always good. And again, you know, I grew up under that stepfather. You know, my daddy was, biological father was never in my life. So, you know, like I said, I saw my mom, it was just me and her for 8 years. And she, I don't remember struggling, but I've seen pictures where it was just me and her. And I've heard, you know, family members or whatever say different things. And of course, then after that, she met my stepfather. But I just know that I always wanted to be married, you know. And it wasn't a thing I remember like in high school and anything like that, but I do remember there was a point in my life I realized, you know, I want a family, you know. And I didn't want no baby daddy. I wanted a husband. And that's what God sent me. He sent me just that and more. And so you can't tell me God won't answer prayer, because he will. And He knows exactly who we need, and he know when we need him. And he know everything. He omnipotent. But like I said, going back to far back as I can remember, the women on my mom's side, like I said, they were always, running. My late husband even said it. He said it seemed like the women in y'all family said they seem like they tell the men what to do. And I said, why you say that? And I already knew what he was talking about because I lived it. I said, what are you talking about? He said, they bossy. Y'all, he didn't hold back. He said they just bossy. And that bothered him because he said they need to be put in their place. and y'all, just so you know, he never hit on me. He never did anything mean to me, but he believed in the Bible, and he believed in what the Bible said. God first, then the husband. And head of the household, head of the family. He believed in that. And he lived it. And he used to tell me all the time, he said, that ain't gonna fly with me. Your attitude and trying to be bossy. He said, He said, we're not gonna do that. And I'm gonna admit, I started out the marriage doing that because I've shared this, but I'll share it again. When we first got married, his daddy he still is a minister, but when we first got married, his dad was a pastor in the church, and I was going to my mom's church, and that was the thing, on Sunday, I lived by myself, but on Sunday, before I got married, I always met up, went to church, whatever dirt and sleeping around I did, Friday night, Saturday night, I got up, I went to church some of the time. And I would, after we leave church, I go to my mom's house, eat dinner. She always cooked a big dinner. And that was just a thing. That was an every Sunday thing, just about. And so I was always under them, like sort of trying to please them and whatever, but I was doing dirt and stuff too, but I was just always trying to, I wasn't too far from them. What you cook today? What you cook today, mama? But when I met him, when I married him, I still tried to implement, still wanted that, in my life, and even with the church stuff, and he was like, we're gonna have to sit down and figure this out, because he said, this ain't gonna work. And I said, because we had came up with this idea, we said, well, I came up with the idea, I'll be honest. So I said, since because I was going to, I was a member of course, my mom in the church. He was a member of his dad's church. So church his dad was pastoring. And I said, I know what we can do. I said, we can just, and I'm starting at this point, y'all, but I'm going to take y'all back. But I said, I know what we can do. I said, we can just, one Sunday, we can go to your dad's church, and next Sunday we can go to my church. And he said, he didn't go all in, agree with it, but he's like, okay. So y'all, that caused so much rift in the family, because there was Sundays that we did do it. We did it for a little bit, but he got tired of doing it. And he was like, look, because it was one morning, I remember, we got up and well, I was being argumentative. He was like, he said, this ain't gonna work. And I said, what do you mean? It was just a big old thing, and I can't remember if I still went on to church that morning. I think I rushed out of the house, and I was mad. If I did go, I was mad. Y'all, that ain't no way to, there's no way to do nothing. So, I said that to say this. a lot of times, you know, we bring into our marriages mess from past relationships, or not even past relationships, but just rearing that's not good, you know. Here he was, you know, and God was using him, you know. You married now. God saying you married now, young lady, and you trying to, you know, buck up against him. You know, that's not what this is. This is not what this is about. You know, answered your prayer. You got a good man here, and he was being real nice, y'all. He's like, well, we all need to be together, you know. And he didn't. The other part of it, he was like, I don't think, because at the time it was just, we just had my youngest son, because you know the oldest son, he's a bonus child, so we just had him at the time. And then of course in a few years my oldest daughter was gonna be born. But he was like, no, I just don't think this is a good idea for the children, you know. I was like, but we splitting it up, you know. We can do 2 Sundays, your church, you know, or every other or whatever. And he's like, he said, no. He said, he said, we're going to have to choose. He said, I think, no, he said, it wasn't no choosing. He said, I think we just all should go to my dad, you know, where he at. And like I said, y'all, I did not want to hear that. I was like, because you know what I was thinking about? It wasn't even about the Lord. It wasn't about what was right, biblically right or nothing. I was trying to please my mom and them. And I was like, okay. So if I do that, if I agree to what he's saying, I ain't gonna be able to go over their house and key and talk about people and stuff. That's what I didn't want to give up. But see, when you come together as one, 2 become one, there's some stuff you gotta let go. When I'm talking to somebody, you gotta let go of some stuff. You can't be holding on to mess. My mom them knew that they had a hold on me like that, because I always did that. I did that forever. When I lived with them and moved out, I always was over their house eating. You know, she was a good cook. What we eating today, Mama? You know, and she tell me the menu, and I sit up over there, sit up over there 2 or 3 hours on Sunday. That's when I was single. And then I go home, you know, because I ain't no children, I ain't had nothing else to do. But when I got married, I had plenty to do. I had a husband to tend to and to enjoy. So, but like I said, he said, nah, this ain't gonna work. He said, this ain't gonna work. And like I said, he wasn't mean or anything, but he was saying it was nice as he could say it. And I said, what's wrong? And it took me a while, y'all, but I'm gonna tell you what happened. How God intervened in that situation. So he know me. He created me. I was going. His mom had picked. His mom was keeping our children. So she was keeping the youngest son and the oldest daughter. Because there was a while where we couldn't afford daycare. It was so expensive. And she only kept them for a little while. But, because that didn't work out. But anyway, you know, I go over to her house. You know, I drop them off, go over to the house, pick them up, whatever. And, y'all, I can't make this up. This is the truth. I was going to pick them up this one particular day. And, you know, I was tired, of course. Just got off work. You know, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to go pick these babies up. And as I was going down the street, the leading up to their house, they street, I heard a voice say, be with your husband. And it wasn't nobody but the Lord telling me to be with him. And I gave, like, quit doing that every other Sunday stuff. No, be with your husband. Be at the same church as your husband. That's what the Holy Spirit said. And I got up. Y'all, when you hear the voice of Jesus, you better get in the herd. I can't remember what Sunday it was. I want to say it was that next Sunday, but I can't remember. It's been a long time ago. But I know I got up in church. I testified about what happened. The Holy Spirit spoke to me. I joined the church. I did. Sure did. And of course, my husband was already a member, of the church. But I joined. Y'all, that was such a freedom. Because that released me from that. Trying to do what my mama didn't want me to do. And they never told me to do, keep coming to church. They never told me that. I wanted to do that. Because I felt like that would make them happy. That's the only reason I wanted to do it. But they never told me to do it. They never told me to do it, but they also never stopped me from doing it. They never told me to go be with your husband. They never told me that. If they did, I never heard them say it. But there again, that's why it's so important, to listen to Jesus, because he ain't gonna never steer you wrong. And you got people right around you, but they can't tell you what's right because they ain't doing what's right. So how they gonna advise me on doing what's right when they ain't doing it? Make it make sense. So that's why you gotta know Jesus for yourself. And when he tell you to do something, that's why you gotta do it. You don't need nobody to tell you it's okay to do. Do it. He told you to do it, so it's more than okay. But I wanted to start there for the purpose of, we got to listen to our men, women. We got to listen to our husbands. We got to listen to what they're telling us, advising us to do, things like that, because that could have caused a lot of whatever in our marriage. We had just recently got married, and I was already starting that wrong, because I am trying to tell him, here I was trying to tell him, I ain't doing that. I don't want to do that. Just got married. I think we may have been married maybe a couple years, fresh in the marriage, and I'm already acting up. But God, when he told me to do that, I did it, y'all, and the rest is history. But I want to go back to how we met, and I shared this before in that video. I lost my husband, but I want to share this part because how God will bless you with the man you need. If you're a man, he'll bless you with the woman you need. A lot of times we want what we want. You're looking for somebody who's tall and 6'2", good looking, and that's the same man that may cheat on you, may hit on you, may just be your worst nightmare. But he look good. And that's all that you met. That's all that you care about. It's good sex, It's all you care about. But it's more to a marriage than that. It's more to it than that. Like I said, I can remember sometimes during, our marriage, and we would go to different family functions, and I never forget this. My uncle said to me, he said, because we were leaving early from a family reunion because he had to get to work. And, we had traveled a little ways, about an hour, 2.5. And he said, what you in a hurry? My uncle said this to me. What you in a hurry to leave for? Is that man beating on? He said, is that man beating on you? I said, what? And it was just how he said it. And I was like, is that what you think? Because I'm being submissive to my husband, and I'm, we're a family. He supposed to go back home by himself, and I supposed to stay here with y'all while y'all drinking and doing all this other stuff that I don't want to be a part of. He was just so offended, and I didn't understand that, because he's of course my mom's brother, but I was just like, where did they come from? And maybe it was how I was looking as we were leaving, but I sort of wanted to leave, but I sort of didn't want to leave because I didn't want to leave because I was like, yeah, I'm looking like I don't want to be a part of the family, but we had to go. And also, it was the last day of the family reunion, so they were, like I said, they were getting ready to really get wide open because I didn't drink. I don't drink. My late husband didn't drink, but I soon noticed after we got back home and I went on Facebook, my late husband said they were waiting on us to leave. He said he was just joking because they didn't care if we was there or not. But he said, look what happened after we left, and they were drinking up a storm, and then they would let you slide, and which that's fine, but they were just. I said, yeah. And I said we didn't miss nothing. And so anyway, but I told him what my uncle said, and he was like, he did like I said, he didn't pay ignorant talk any attention. I was just like, where'd that come from? But I just said no, he's not beating on me. We're just leaving because he got to go to work, But to people who got a problem with, and he a man, and he got a problem with me being agree with my husband, that tell me a lot about him as a man. I don't care if he is my uncle. But I didn't pay that no attention, y'all. I still left, and we still went on home. I was ready to leave because they was cranking it up before we left. So I was ready to leave. We didn't miss nothing. But to some people that don't like to see people happy and don't like to see people, doing good or whatever, because they not doing good, they throw out little words like that to you. What's going on? And like I'm gonna tell, like if I was getting beat on, like I'm gonna tell him, which I wasn't, but I was like, why would you? What about this situation? Anything about this? What's about this situation that make you think, come to that assumption that I'm getting hit on because I'm leaving with my husband? He gotta go to work, and I said that to him, but it's like he didn't even hear that. He's just like, she, why she leaving her family? Trying to make me feel bad. But y'all, I don't know. But going back to, I always knew I wanted better. Like I said, going to all the different family reunions and being around all the different family members and stuff, I always knew that I wanted to be married, as far back as I can remember. And even when I was dating and stuff, I really wanted, I wanted to not just, be dating somebody to get a teddy bear for Valentine's Day, for my birthday, for Christmas, whatever. I wanted somebody there all the time, and that's what God gave me. He gave me a wonderful, loving man. I remember when we first met, he was, and I've shared this before, but I'm gonna share it again because I think it's so funny. Because how you start out is how you gonna finish, and I used to tease him about this, and he said, see, I ain't changed ever. And I said, no, you ain't changed. And so when we first met, when we was dating, when you're in that little starry-eyed stage where you just head over heels with them and you can't wait to see them and you just lovey-dovey. And it's fun. And so, because you're getting to know the person. And so he would get off work and come to my apartment. And how I know he was on his way coming down the street, because he had a sports car. And so he had the music up, and it was just a boom, boom. His music be sort of loud. And so, but it wouldn't really. I don't think it was. Well, yeah, it was rap music sometimes, but most of the time it was love songs. And so that's one thing we had in common too. We love 70, 80 music. And so anyway, in 90s too. But so that's how I knew he was coming down the road, because I could hear, I hear the music. And so I said, where we gonna go? Cause I be ready, y'all. I be like, we're gonna go to Baskin Robbins, and we did that quite a few times, and then I just give me a little cup of ice cream, and I think he got him something, but he wasn't crazy about ice cream, but I was at the time. I really liked it. And so we'll go to Baskin Robbins and get ice cream. And then it was one night he came to get me. Because we'll be just riding around or whatever. Just sit in the car and talk, kiss, whatever. And it seemed like that was the best days, y'all. And so getting to know somebody. And so he told me this one night, he said, you know what? We just gonna go to the grocery store because we're gonna get you we're just gonna get a half a gallon of ice cream. He said, but he didn't say it that the Baskin Robbins, the little cup, but that was kind of expensive doing it all the time. And I said, okay. And I was like, it'll take the fun out of everything. And so he laughed about that after we got married. We talked about every now and then to come up, and he said, I ain't changed, hell. I said, no, you ain't. He said, I'm still the same. And and he watched the money. He was careful about how he spent the money and stuff. I said that was funny. Yeah, he said, and he did it so nice, y'all. He said, yeah, we'll just go. What kind you like? And he went and bought me a half a gallon of ice cream. After that, I was like, okay, I don't want to do Baskin Robbins no more now. So he don't let me know. Because like I said, when you're doing stuff like that, I wasn't thinking about it was expensive, but I don't even think it was about the money. It was just about like, okay, we can eat ice cream at your apartment. And like I said, nothing changed because that's how he was in the marriage. He took care of the finances. That's how he was. And so anyway, so yeah, sometimes we just had the best times. We go to the park and the first time of how I really knew that he was gonna be the one is when we had really good conversation. And I love good conversation. I don't like, I dated guys before him, and I'm like, I already knew what they wanted. It was just sex. But I'm like, I want somebody I can talk to and have something in common with. And that's what we had. We talked about everything. We had a good relationship. A lot of people thought that he was, they're like, he don't talk. Like people on my mom and them side, he's so quiet. I said, no, he's not. I said, he talks all the time to me. And they told me, yeah, because that's your husband. I said, no. I said, he listens. I said, with other people, he listens to everything you're saying. And he had a very good memory. And don't tell him that. And don't come back with a lie. Because he'll remember it. He'll make you remember it. So anyway, cause he always just say, I don't forget that. And he did. Because I'll tell him something, and maybe 2 or 3 months ago, back, and he said, I thought you said blah, blah, blah. And it wouldn't be that I was lying, but it'll be that I forgot what I told him, It'll be about somebody at work or something. And I said, did I tell you that? He said, yep. He said, you told me such and such. I said, oh, okay. So he said, I don't forget them. But while we were dating and stuff, y'all, like I said, I knew because of the good conversation, and then I also knew because of how caring he was. I noticed how he would open doors for me. I noticed how he would mindful of if I was feeling good or not. Just good qualities and characteristics of a godly man. I noticed right away how he put others before himself. I noticed that right away because whenever his son, he's my son too, but whenever his son would come to visit in the summer or whatever, he would always, I noticed how he was treating his son. And I said, he's going to be a good dad to the children we have, too. But I was paying attention to everything. I really was. He was just so understanding, and he didn't get mad about nothing. You have to really do something to really get him upset. I mean, you have to, somebody would, but he wouldn't he never, you know, he just so calm, cool, and collective all the time. And never complained. He wasn't no complainer. You know, if he was hurting or something, he kept it to himself all the way up till he died, because he wasn't nobody complaining about, oh, I'm hurt, you know. He still kept going. And I remember when we were doing all them walks in the park and stuff, I'm tell y'all something funny too. We used to laugh about this too. Y'all, I feel like I've been living way much longer than I have, because I've had to go through so much stuff and been through so much stuff, but it's all for my good, and it's okay. But we were doing the walks in the park and just talking about different things and stuff. And so I found out, you know, that who his parents were. So, but really at that particular time, his dad was well known in the community. You know, his dad worked at I ain't gonna say where he worked at, but he worked for a well-known company, you know, there in Tennessee. And, you know, he was just well known. Everybody knew him, respected him, blah, you know, whatever. And just had a good name in the community. I found out who his parents were, so I went and told my mom now. And they said, because I didn't know them. And I don't even think I had heard of them. And my mom said, yeah, we know them. And I said, y'all do? Y'all, I was so geeked about that. I said, y'all do? How y'all know them? And then come to find out, my stepfather had cleaned up their car. Because, you know, he had a detail business. And he said, you know, way years back, he cleaned up their car. I said, oh, okay. So, yeah, I was trying to find information to get him, so to get branding points from him. Because a lot of that he didn't know. Because he had been in college and stuff. But anyway, I found that out. I said, okay, the parents know each other. Okay, this gonna be nice right here. And so then, of course, he had brothers, 3 brothers, and then a sister. And so I was like, okay. But even before all of that, I was anticipating. I said, okay, I'm gonna have to eventually meet his parents. And you know, y'all know women, y'all know that mama. You get past that mama, you home free. But you gotta get past the mama. You know, it wasn't bad like I thought it would be, but she looked me up and down, and she was watching every move I was making. It's like, okay, this is my oldest son. Who are you? And I think they knew, you know, we had been having premarital sex and stuff, because he was staying with them at the time for a little while, and to save his money up and get him his own place and stuff, because he had just come out of a relationship not too long ago in another city there in Tennessee. And so, you know, he was just kind of in transition, so to speak. But anyway, me and him met, and it went like that. So anyway, so, you know, she was looking at me like, okay, who are you, you know? And then he had already told me about the ex, you know, how they really liked her and stuff. And then not only the ex, but the mom to his child, to his oldest son. So I was like, oh, you know, I'm gonna deal with a bunch of stuff. Here I am. I ain't got no attachments, but I had did stuff I wasn't supposed to do before I met him. But anyway, so anyway, the time that I was gonna meet them, I had told him that my parents knew his parents and stuff like that. And he was like, okay. He didn't seem impressed about that at all. He's like, okay, whatever. And but I was so happy that that was a thing, because I was like, yeah, you know, that's gonna make it better. But he didn't even care. And so the chance came for me to meet them, because I had told him, I said, he was telling me about how they were and stuff. He said, they quiet and they ain't like your, he said, they ain't like your family. Your family like, He said, your family loud. He said, I mean, when all y'all get together, he said, I can't even hear myself think. He said, everybody talking at the same time, and you saying something to your mama saying something to you, then is your sister saying something to both of y'all. He said, it's just too much. So y'all just loud. And I said, that's just how we are. But now that I think back on that, y'all, that's out of order. That's what that is. Ain't nothing cute about that. You know, you got all them people talking at the same time. Ain't nobody listening. Everybody talking, ain't nobody listening. And so then when I went over his parents' house and met his parents, I'm like, why is it so quiet? I'm like, why ain't nobody talking? And then I be trying to talk and say little stuff. They'll answer it. Go back quiet again. And I'm like, So it was like night and day. And that's how he was, me and him was. You know, he talked to me though. We talked a lot. But when he went around my family, it looked like he was like just so shy or whatever. But I was like, no, he's not. So anyway, so it came the time for me to meet his parents. And so, like I said, he had been telling me how they were, this, that, and the other. And I said, okay, I'm ready. So I think I didn't really officially meet them until Christmas. That's when I met like everybody. But I did go over there prior to that and meet them, because when we met, you know, that Christmas holiday was coming up, and I can't remember how far it was, but it was coming up. I remember that. But he had taken me up to the house prior to that, and I was just like, you know, like a little kid, because I was like, okay, they gonna like me, or, you know, I don't know. And I made sure I looked nice and stuff, and it went okay, it went nice or whatever. But I was so nervous, y'all, and I'm like, okay, I'm sitting up here sleeping with y'all, I was about to say husband. Okay, Lord, I receive it. He on the way. But my new husband. But what was I saying? So yeah, I was saying, yeah, I'm sitting up here trying to look out Miss Prissy and Miss upright, and I'm here laying up with your son, with your oldest son. Just got through sexing with him. So anyway, y'all, it's like I said, I wish I hadn't did that now, and I think back on that, because it takes away from the beautiful act of it. It really does, when you've already tested the waters, you know. And but anyway, we met, you know, I met with them, and it seemed like that, you know, everything. And I think I asked him, and I didn't find out till after he died. His mom told me, she said, he came, y'all, I tell you, that just, it melted my heart, y'all. Because I never knew this. She told me, she said, because we were just talking about the funeral and everything. And y'all forgive me, because it really made me feel so happy. But because I needed, when she told me this, I really needed to hear it. At that time, because I was so low in my spirit. But she said, when he came home, said he told her, said, I found my wife. And I said, Lord have mercy. I said, I didn't cry or nothing, but I was so happy, y'all. I was so happy, because like I said, I needed to hear that. I never knew that. I never knew that until after he died. And I said, wow. She told me that out her mouth. Said he came, I think she said he came in the kitchen and told her that. And I said, wow. That made me, my heart was, I was feeling so low that day, and it's like my heart just said, whew, you know, because it just filled me with so much joy. Because to know that he felt the same way I felt, because, you know, I had gone through so much before I met him, and it seemed like, you know, the guy after guy after guy, and they were just all wrong, because they weren't created for me. And when I met him, I just knew it. You know, I met him on that job, and I said, you know, he the one. I felt it. You know, a lot of people think that's cliche, but it's so real, y'all. It's so real, and you have to be in it to know it. You have to know. And I wasn't even close to Jesus at the time, but I knew what I knew. God, the Holy Spirit allowed me to know. And that's the one thing about the Holy Spirit. You don't have to be in church. You don't have to be whatever. Be carrying the Bible in your hand. But when Jesus want to get your attention, he will get your attention one way or the other. But y'all, that made me so happy. And I said, I like I said, I really needed to hear that when she told me that, even though, you know, we had just buried him. But that was good to know. It really was, and it made me feel really good. And so I said, oh, okay, you know, and I received that. But yeah, we forgot what I was talking about, y'all. So after you know, like I said, after we met, and after I met the parents and everything, and they were, you know, everything seemed to be clicking there. And then shortly after that, of course, we were announcing that we were getting married. But like I said, there were things about him that I noticed right away. You know, he was caring, he was loving, very compassionate, you know, very selfless. He was very giving, you know. He always, like I say, he always put himself last and put everybody else first. And he just always concerned, you know, about, you know, you feeling okay? You know, he always would ask me, you feeling all right? You know, and I would love in our marriage, y'all, you know, he would always, I didn't like when I got sick, but I remember this one time in particular. I was thinking about that yesterday, actually. I had some work done on my teeth, and which just seemed like I was always having work done on my teeth. But I think I had my wisdom teeth pulled or something. I think that's what it was. I had went in for, and of course I had to be put under, had anesthesia. And so he my stepdad took me, because my late husband had to work. So my stepdad had, you know, he took me to the appointment. And I'm sorry, let's see, I'm trying to think who took me. I don't know. Let's see, did he take me? No. So I think my stepdad took me and he picked me up, I think. Yeah, I think he did both. But what I want to share is my stepdad, he come and got me, picked me up he didn't leave. He stayed there the whole time, because it wasn't that long. I don't think I was there that long. But anyway, my stepdad said, yeah, they took you out the back door because you were so out of it. I was very loopy, and so he put me in his truck, my stepdad, and took me home. So from the dentist office to where we lived in Tennessee, in that city, it was just probably like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that. And so we was just right down the street. And so we got home, y'all, and my late husband, because I think that day he had to work, so because his office was upstairs in the closet, walk-in closet. And so he came downstairs, y'all, and of course I don't remember every detail, but I just remember he put me on his like piggyback, and because my stepdad was sort of struggling, as I was told by my children. They said that, because they said Mama, he about to fall with you. And because we lived on a hill, and he was trying to get me out the truck, and he said while he was driving me home, I was just so out of it. And but he wasn't working, of course, at the time, so he was just trying to help or whatever, and which he did help, because we needed his help that day. But anyway, he drove me to the house and stuff, but he was trying to, you know, get me out of his truck and into the house. And so I think by this time my children were out of school or whatever, and so, or they were home from school, and so they came to the door and said, Mama, okay? And so my late husband, he comes down the steps to help. And I remember this part, because my youngest daughter actually had got a video of it. But he put me on his back. You know how you put somebody, he put my arms around him like this, you know, I was like this, and he carried me, drug me up the steps, y'all. And because I was so out of it, you know, he couldn't pick me up, because I was just dead weight, really. But well, I guess he could have, but yeah, he's like, okay, I think this is gonna be the easiest way. But yeah, he drug me up the steps, and we had about 15 steps or so. And he put me in the bed, and he went on back in the, you know, in the closet and worked and stuff, because we had a real big closet. And he went back in there and worked, closed the door, worked and whatever. And I remember finally that loopiness was wearing off, and he's like, "You need anything?" And I said, I think he gave me some juice or something. I said, "Yeah, I'm okay." And so, because I had got off course that day, and I think I had got off the next day too. But the kids were laughing at me because they said, "Mama, you was out of it." I said, "Yeah, I know." But I remember, I do remember when he put me on his back. I remember that part. But y'all, that's just some of the stuff that just came in my memory bank yesterday, and I was like, wow, he was just so caring. And then the other time, I remember, I just couldn't have asked for a better man. And I know the next husband gonna be even better. I know he is. But what is it? So I had it was about my cell phone. So this is when I think I had to go to my oldest daughter to school for her meeting with her teacher. She didn't do anything wrong. It was just how they had them teacher meetings to let you know how your child doing in the academics, whatever. And so you get to know the teacher, things like that. So I went to the meeting, and so I was already rushing because I was trying to hurry them get back to work because they had let me off for that short time. And I was just trying to hurry up and get back to work. So I put my cell phone that I had at the time, I put it on the hood of the car. And so I was rushing, and wasn't thinking. I get in the car, close the door, of course, and then I pulls off. Well, I guess I was driving pretty perfectly until I got to the end of the street of the school, where the school at, to get ready to turn right. And I heard, y'all know that noise, that shatter sound. That phone slid off it stayed on top of the car all that time because I wasn't driving that fast, really. But when I turned right, I jerked a little, and it slid. And I was like, oh, I heard it. And it hit that ground, glass. That's what it is, glass. And I said, oh, no. So I went home. And because from the school, high school to our house was 7-8 minutes. I went home. I went upstairs, y'all, because I had to go into work. And I threw the phone. He's upstairs working from home. I threw the phone on the bed, y'all. I was so mad at him. I was mad at myself. I'm mad at him. I threw the phone on the bed. I said, my phone I don't know what I'm gonna do. I gotta go to work. And he said, what? I said, because he didn't know what was going on. I said, it slid off the car. I forgot it was on the car. I said, I got to go to work. I said, I don't know how you going to call me because I don't know. I'll talk to you later. I said, if you need me or anything happen, just call me at the work number. Call the job. And so, y'all, I was just so disgusted with myself. And so, y'all, let me tell you how good a husband I had. I get off work. Now, keep in mind, I told everybody at work what happened, and they said, what? And I said, yeah. And of course, when you going through something like that, it's like everybody, everybody TikToking on their phones. It's like people that ain't ever pulled out their phone at work, pulling their phone out that day. And I was like, ugh. That was just reminding me of what happened. But like I said, it wasn't nobody's fault but man. I couldn't get mad at none of them. And so, just mad at myself for being just not thinking. And so anyway, I got back home, and he said, come on, let's go we get ready to go. I said, where we going? He said, we're going to the cell phone repair store. So I called them, made an appointment to get your phone fixed. And I said, you did? And because I'm thinking, because I was thinking about our financial situation. I was like, I don't know, I guess I'm gonna have to get some little, I don't know what kind of phone I'm gonna get, an old outdated phone until I can get another phone. Because I think at the time we didn't have I don't think we had insurance on the phone. I don't know, I can't remember. But anyway, I was just thinking along those lines. But see, once again, I think I know stuff, but I didn't know in that case. I really didn't know. Because he always came, he always had something up his sleeve, something good. And so anyway, I just said, well, and so I said, we going, I'm trying to calculate in my mind, like, I thought we didn't, okay. And so he said, yo, I made an appointment, we're gonna take your phone, they're gonna forget it, they're gonna fix it. So we went to the place, y'all, after I got off work, and we went, I think we went and wasted time and drove around, got something to eat or something, and we went back, and they had fixed the phone. It looked just like it had never been broke. It still had a little small tiny crack in it, I think, or something, but I could see it. Like, it wasn't even noticeable at all. And I was like, wow, they redid that whole thing. And so I think they was telling me that it could have been a lot worse, but it was just, of course, superficial. So only the glass needed to be repaired. Like, it didn't mess up nothing else. And then shortly after that, I ended up getting a new phone anyway after that. But y'all, like I said, that's just a few things how he was. And he was just, like I said, he was just so caring. And so late at our church, she had said that. She said, I want to be like him. She said, he's just so calm. She noticed that about him. Said he don't never want to be in the front. Said he always play the background. And I said, yep, he do. And she said he don't want no limelight on him. And that's how she was. She noticed that about him because that's how she was. And sort of like me and her husband, we always was like out, whatever. But him and my late husband and her, they were pretty much had the same, character. Cause I was a bit showy. I was showy then. At that time, I was showy. Want to be seen. But anyway, she said that. She said he don't like the spotlight on him. I said, no, he don't. I said he rather somebody else have it on him. And that's just how he was. But a provider, a protector, he always made sure we was good. A lot of times he hears something, and of course, quite a little bit before we all got sick with COVID, I noticed he was just being super protective of us. I noticed that, and that could have been an indication he's getting ready to leave this world. But he was just, because he's like, you hear that noise, And I said, I don't hear nothing. And sometimes if I did, I'm like, I don't, I act like I didn't because I'd be so tired or sleepy. But he said, I heard something. And then he'll go downstairs and check, make sure the doors was locked and stuff. But he was just always wanting to protect us, make sure we was okay. And there was this one time in particular, I don't even know why, or that way I know what happened. God covered us that night. I had come in from somewhere, and I don't know where I had come in from. I don't know if it was I had been on my mom's house or where, because I would just randomly go over their house just to sit up and eat, or just to get away from all the, whatever I was dealing with at home or whatever, which we weren't mad at each other then, but I just get away because, the kids be with him, and I just go over there and chit chat with them, talk about people, whatever. But this one night in particular, I can't remember where I was coming in from, but I had left the keys to open the door. I had left the keys in the door all night long, and I still don't know. I don't know to this day why. I don't know why I did that, And I was just looking for the keys. I was looking for them keys everywhere. I was like, where are them keys at? Where are them keys at? They was in the door the whole night. And somebody could have just come in there and robbed us. They could have come in there and hurt us or whatever. And God, once again, God's holy hand was protecting us. And I can't remember what he said about that when that happened. I can't remember. I don't even remember his response or anything. But I think he was just saying it was something like, you're going to have to be more careful or something like that. But I can't remember. But anyway, that just came in my spirit to share that. So y'all be mindful about locking your doors and just, I don't know why I did that. I think I was just really super tired that night. And a lot of times when I used to have a lot of bags coming in the house and stuff, sometimes he would be asleep, sometimes he would be not there or whatever, and you how you just get so busy doing stuff, and you're like, oh, and like I said, I was searching for them keys, and them keys was in the door the whole night, and I didn't discover them until I opened the door, of course, because there was a lot of keys on the ring, and I was like, Lord have mercy, thank you Jesus, you protected us all night long from our crazy minds. But yeah, it's just I just, I know that, I always share this, and it's true. I know that the Lord is going to allow me to remarry, and I know my new husband is going to be, even better than my last husband. But he's going to be caring. He's going to have everything that God has instilled in him to have. And like I said, I've always, that's one thing that I really enjoyed about my late husband. Like I said, we had really good conversation. We had it just seemed like we just talked about everything. We talked about the ugly stuff, we talked about the pretty stuff. And like I said, I shared that with him. I had right before he passed away, and I didn't know he was gonna die, but I had shared with him something that I had did before I met him, and stuff, and the consequences of it and stuff like that. And he said, "Why are you telling me this now?" He said, "We've been married 21 years. And I said, "Yeah." I said, "But I felt like I needed to tell you." And and I ain't robbed no bank or nothing like that, but it was something I had did that I wasn't so happy about. And I, by me being married to him, I needed to share it with him. And he said, he did like this, "Okay." And I said, "Okay, that's how you gonna say?" He said, "What you want me to say?" He said, "That's in the past." And but it was just basically it had to do with another guy. And I was just telling him something that had happened. But anyway, he, like I said, he didn't think nothing about it, and it just rolled right over him. And but I couldn't sleep for a long time. I just couldn't rest, because it's like the Lord wanted me to share that with him, be honest. And that's what I did. And like I said, a little bit after that, he was gonna die. And I don't, a lot of stuff we may not understand. That's why I say, things that could have, I feel like that was spiritually, that had to do with the spirit realm. Because a lot of stuff we've done, and we haven't confessed, or we haven't talked, we haven't said, "Okay, I did that," and I never had shared that with him the whole marriage until then. And not that I was trying to keep it I don't guess I was trying to keep it a secret, but it was embarrassing. And so when I told him, I felt so free, y'all. And that's why I'm so honest to this day. I come on this channel and I share the ugly stuff with y'all, and I share the beautiful stuff, because like I said, we can't move forward until we deal with what we have, what has happened to us. And the enemy can no longer hold us bound when we say, "Okay, I did that. Okay, I'm guilty of that. Lord, please forgive me. I repent of those sins, that nasty stuff I did. I repent of it all. Clean me up, make me new, created me a clean heart, renew a steadfast spirit within me." So we free. Who the Son sets free is free indeed. We ain't got to carry that load around with us, and "Oh, I shouldn't have did that." No. And there's no more condemnation. You free. So but I just wanted to share that, y'all. That's those are some really good traits of a godly man. I don't know whoever watches this video, if you're a single woman, ask the Lord for a godly man. And when you say godly, that's gonna cover everything. Like I said, it comes a time where you get tired of the same old, and like I said, meeting him was like a breath of fresh air. I was just so happy and thankful. And y'all, I tell you this too, a lot of the family members, especially on my mom's side, I feel like they sort of was envious of me, because here I was, I'm the little girl who didn't have a daddy. Her daddy was never around her. For whatever reason, her daddy didn't want to be bothered with her. Her daddy didn't want to take care of her, whatever. whatever the gossip was. You know, she was that little girl that didn't have her dad in her life, you know. And they always made sure I knew that, or they always made sure that I was reminded of that. When the last time you see your dad? You know, they always threw that in my face. And now that I think back on that, that was trying to make me feel some type of way. That was trying to make me feel, you know, make me feel bad, you know, about, dang, why my dad don't want to be around me, whatever. So, but I didn't even take it like that. You know, I didn't look at it like that, because I'd be like, I don't know. You probably seen him, you probably have seen him more times than I have. You know, I make a little joke out of it. As I became older, I started catching on to what they was doing, and I say something right back to them. I wasn't being mean, but I'd be like, yeah, I'm sure you've seen him more than I have, you know, and I go on and talk about something else, because after a while I was like, that don't affect me anymore, you know. But again, I knew that, you know, I knew what I wanted. I knew I always wanted to be married, and I knew that, you know, I wanted a man that was going to take care of me, not only take care of me, but love God, love his family, you know, just be there, you know. And like I said, we had some long night talks and just, you know, some really good conversation. You know, we'd be sitting on the couch and we'd be cuddled up. He'll already be downstairs, and I flop down beside him and just snuggle under him, because he was a big guy. I snuggle up on his, you know, on his arm, shoulder, and a lot of times he'd have a blanket or something, and me and him get up under the blanket, and we just be, y'all, it was so fun. We do that on Saturday. We'll do it through the week anytime, but the kids come in and say, Mama, you always bothering Daddy. I said, this my hubby. And we just, you know, we just had that type of relationship. And, you know, that's what I miss a lot, because he was the one out of everybody that knew me other than Jesus. He knew me really well. And he knew what I liked. He knew what I didn't like. You know, he just knew me. And this man, y'all, I'm going to tell you how good a man I had. This man would go in the store and buy me my pads, my feminine pads. You know, he didn't care. He'd go in the store and buy it. He said, what you need? You know, whatever I needed, he was there. And I remember when I had told him, well, when the Lord had spoke to me, and he passed away October of 2021, and the Lord spoke to me and told me to fast, go on a Daniel fast, August of that same year. So a few months later, he gonna die. But the Lord told me, we had come home from church that Sunday, and I heard the word fast in the spirit. And I said, fast. So I went upstairs and I got on YouTube, and I was looking at all the different fasts and people saying they were fasting, this, that, and the other. And I was like, ooh, okay. Because, you know, I had never fasted before, so I didn't really know. So, and Daniel, he said Daniel fast. So I did 21 day Daniel fast. And y'all, this how good and loving this man was. He didn't question me. He didn't say, what you talking about? He didn't say none of that. But I feel like the Lord had already spoke to him. I feel like he knew. I don't know if he knew he was going to die, but I think he knew something. You know, he knew something. Because when I went to him and told him that, he said, well, you just do it. If God told you to do it. And so, of course, then at that time, he was the one, you know, he took care of the finances. So he was, you know, he would buy the groceries or order the groceries, because that's during that time he was ordering groceries. So he would go he would ask us what, you know, he said what we need, and he would just order it online, and then he just go pick it up. Because of course y'all know that was still during transitioning out of COVID. So anyway, that's what he had started doing. Cause he said I like this. I like doing this because, you know, he said I don't have to shop, you know, walk around in the store. And so anyway, when I told him about the Daniel fast, y'all, he went online and he said, what you want me to order? And I said, get some water, get juice, get this, get that. So I told him what to order, and he ordered everything, and he said, is that what you need? He give me peanuts and raisins, and so he got all the stuff for me, and then of course he went and picked it up. And I remember this the one day it was one day during the fast, and I said, I think I came downstairs or something, and him and the children had Chick-fil-A. And I said, why y'all eating Chick-fil-A? I told y'all I was fasting. And he said, God told you to fast. He didn't tell us to fast. And so we just all laughed. I said, okay, that's how y'all gonna do me. And I didn't eat no Chick-fil-A. I stayed with my meat, my fasting, and it went on like that. It did. So, but that just really blessed my heart, which I already knew that's the type of man I had. I was married to. He said, what you need? He ordered all that stuff for me, that food and stuff, and went and picked it up, and he said, okay, there you go. That's what you need. Okay, there it is. So such a blessing to have known him, to have been married to him. And I had told his parents after he passed away, I told them, I said, y'all raised a good man. I said, and his mom had shared with me, which he had said to me a couple of times before he died. And I said, yeah, right. He was telling me, but I found out it was true. He told me, he said, I never got in trouble. I never got whippings or nothing. He said, I always did what my parents told me to do. And I said, come on now. I said, you a little boy. I said, little boys always hard-headed. I said, they always into something. And I asked his mama them, and they said, Said, he telling you right. Said, he telling the truth. Said, we never had to get on him. We never had to, tell him nothing. We told him one time, and it was done. And said when he had to watch his other siblings, said he did everything he was supposed to do. He never went, did nothing that he wasn't supposed to do. And I said, wow. That's something. But it's very good to hear, because basically that's what is it? What's the word? How he was then. That's what type of man he was to his God was molding him then as a child, as a teenager or whatever. He did what he was supposed to do, and he did that in his marriage. He did that towards God. He did that towards his family. And like I said, it makes a difference to have somebody in your life that you can share good times as well as bad times with. Y'all could talk about stuff. And I'm gonna be honest, y'all, we talked about family, we talked about everybody. We talked about ourselves, our children, we just had that type of relationship. It was all good, but we just, we'll go somewhere and we'll be over his, and nobody was exempt. His parents weren't exempt, man wasn't either, and sister, brother, whoever. And I said, did you see what so did today? Be at the Christmas event or get together or whatever. I said, did you see that? Can you believe that? And then we just y'all, that's what I miss. I really do. I miss that so much, because that was what we just had good conversation. We had good conversation. And like I said, he loved his children. All of us just had a good relationship. And I want to go back to this, and I'm getting ready to close out. But the other part of it, like I said, a lot of my family members on my mom's side, I feel like they were jealous. That's what my uncle said what he said, because they were so used to young women and older women in the family just getting babies, and ain't no man around nowhere. You ain't seen no man. He was there to help make the baby, but after that you ain't see him no more. And that's what they was used to. And then a lot of them, I was really surprised. A lot of them came to our wedding in 2000. I was like, wow, but I think it was mainly to see what, let's see what's going on here, because they had heard about his family too, and his family wasn't rich or nothing like that, but like I said, they were well known, well known people, upstanding in the community, this, that, and the other, and I guess to come from my side of the family, it looked like she don't married up, she don't, and that wasn't even, well, I actually had married up. I had married up in Jesus. That's what, but it ain't had to do with no money. But, to men, that's how, they consider, they got money, because, what kind of house somebody live in, and that ain't even the case. They just work hard, and they take care of their responsibilities. That's all it is. But to people that ain't never really had nothing, and to people who don't really want to have nothing, that's how rich is. Rich to them is somebody that got a big house, somebody that got a nice car. And that don't mean that anybody can have a nice car. If you got a good credit, you can have any type of car you want. But that's a different video. But anyway, so yeah, I feel like a lot of them because they took little jabs at me and stuff, and like my uncle saying that about, he said in a sort of derogatory way. He didn't say it like I said it. He said it another way. That bleep beating on you, and I was like, wow, that's what you think of me, cause not that I'm in a good marriage, not that I got a good man, not that I got a man that love, and this the picture you seeing that he hitting on me because I'm leaving this mess. You ought to be thanking him to get me out of here, because what y'all doing, I don't want to be a part of it. I don't need to be a part of it. But y'all, some people just, even if it is your family, you just gotta pray for them, and just pray that the Lord will touch them and speak to them, and they'll listen before it's everlasting too late. That's all you can do, because you can't make people change. I can't change nobody, and you can't change them either. Just gotta pray for them. Prayer changes everything. But yeah, I feel like that. A lot of family members were, because I had quite a few family members saying to me, asking little stuff like, like they had asking like their status, like, saying, yeah, you got that man over there, he making all that money, but he worked. Me and him both worked. It wasn't that we were rich or anything. We were rich in Jesus. But, like I said, people tend to get the wrong idea. They think because you got things and you're looking pretty good on the outside and stuff. But, y'all, it's so far from that. It's so far from that. And that's why you can't go by what you see with your eyes. You don't know what people dealing with. You don't know whatever they got. They work it. They don't work for it. So you should just be happy for them. But like I said, I feel like a lot of family members, they were jealous of us, and even on his family's side of the family, after he passed away, y'all, they were just coming in like vultures, because he had them nice cars, and that one car he had, the Camaro. Oh, they zoomed in on that, because they like, okay, she can't drive it because it was a stick. She can't drive it, so which that was fine. That was his family, but I was just noticing a lot of stuff, people was doing and stuff like that. But like I said, I'm thankful, for his life. I thank God every day for us to have met, and had those 21 beautiful years together. I do remember this during COVID. We had our anniversary had happened. May of 20, what's that? Let's see. May of 20, COVID was 2020. So we went, because we went, because we didn't do anything May of that year that he died, 2021. It was May of 2020. Yeah, we had went and we had a night out and stuff, and we got a hotel. We had a really nice time, and I didn't know that was gonna be our last time, really celebrating like that, because 2021 we just stayed at home. But anyway, we were going, that's when, that was right in the thick of that. But I remember the restaurant we went to, I think it was I want to say it was Texas Roadhouse, I think. But anyway, I remember we had masks on. I remember that because I had put some pictures on Facebook, and they had everybody was saying, y'all be careful, you know. I'm like, it was a bunch of people in that restaurant. But anyway, we had our mask on, but we had a good dinner that night, and the kid I'm trying to think, y'all, was that because I think that was the night the kids, that was their anniversary. The kids were calling us and, where y'all at? Because we just snuck away. He had booked the hotel and room and stuff, and he said, we just gonna get away. We're gonna get away right here in town. And that was a nice hotel he booked. But anyway, we really enjoyed it. We enjoyed ourselves and had a good anniversary. And then he got me some roses, and y'all, just beautiful. It's just beautiful. It's like something out of a fairy tale book, but it was real life. It wasn't no fairy tale. But like I said, I feel like, you know, even with my parents, his parents, you know, they knew, you know, people know. They know when you got something good. They know that. They know when you it ain't about what you got, but it is what you got. But they know real love when they see it. Like I can look at people in families or whatever, and you know, I remember saying to him, it's a family member on his side, and I said, are they, you know, they married? Excuse me. I said, they married, but I don't see no love there. I said, I never see them. They husband and wife, but are they besties or are they husband and wife? And he said, I don't know. But I would notice that. But that's what I'm saying. When you on the outside looking in, you can see a lot. And you can see when people are very affectionate towards each other. And we wasn't always kissing and hugged up on each other in public. But what I'm saying, there was a unspoken love there. You know, he knew I loved him. I knew he loved me. And, you know, I feel like, you know, ain't nothing wrong with displaying your love out in public and stuff like that. But I feel like, you know, sometimes when people do that, they trying to prove a point. You know, they trying to whatever. You know, what point you got to prove? You married, you know what who you got. They know who they got. You know, who you trying to prove it to. But we seemed like we was always around that. And I'm going to be honest, I used to get sort of intimidated by that, because we'll go around different family members and they say, what you want, babe? You know, baby, baby. And we didn't do that. Because we knew what we had. We knew what we had all day long. We had real love. Real love. So, y'all, I just wanted to share that with y'all, because that's in my spirit to share for somebody. I pray you always hear Jesus speaking through me and not just me. And I don't know what time is it. It's 3:14 now. I know this video gonna be long. I'm gonna have to put everything together, but I'm gonna today was the day I was gonna go with the lady from church. We was gonna have lunch, but y'all, I woke up this morning and I was like, I don't feel like that today. So we may try to do that another time, but and I know I ain't gonna want to do it tomorrow, because Sunday rest day. I ain't doing none of that tomorrow. Let's go to church, worship the Lord day, and go home and rest. Because Sunday afternoon goes super fast. Even though we go to church, we go to church. We go early service, but you know, after 1 or 2 o'clock, the day just about over. Let's get ready for Monday. I ain't complaining. I'm just stating facts. So yeah, but yeah, I just wanted to share about that. I miss him so much, y'all, and I know he's in a better place. He's in heaven. He's the best place he could ever be with Jesus, and I know we'll see him again one day. But I'm just so thankful that he no longer has to be in pain. He don't no longer have to be misused and abused, because I feel like, you know, a lot of times, me included, you know, he was looking after everybody else and nobody was looking after him sometimes. And I feel like he just kept a lot of stuff to himself. And even, you know, he would tell me how you know, different people in his family. He said, yeah, he said, I just get tired sometimes. And I never forget, close to him getting ready to lead this world, he told me, he said, he looked me dead in his face and he said, I'm so stressed. And I said, what you stressed about? And he said, I'm tired. He said, I'm just tired. He said, you know, it seemed like I'm juggling, trying to, and what it was, y'all, it was his health, you know. And I found out after he died, he was dealing with a lot of health issues. He was dealing with a lot of health issues, and I wasn't, he didn't even share that with me. I didn't know. You know, I know he was doing the, the telehealth stuff, but he had diabetes, so I didn't think nothing about that. But see, again, I was so into myself that I didn't focus on him. But I'm not like that anymore. But it took him to die for me to change. But what I'm saying, I'm being honest here, you know, transparent. I was so into myself and what he was giving me and doing for me and making how he made me feel and the children feel, you know, who was looking after him? Who was asking him how he felt? And I would ask him, you know, you okay or something like that, but, you know, it wasn't super concerning. You know, I'm just going to be honest. But that's what God is teaching me. That's what God is dealing with me now. He's preparing me, and he's preparing my next husband for me as well, and for me for him too. And, you know, it's just like I said, a lot of times, you know, when we go into these marriages, you know, yes, you know, it's love, it's all of that, but it's also, it's more than that. You know, it's more than you know, the sex. Is more than just a good conversation. It's all about, has God ordained that marriage? And I know God did ordain our marriage, but like I said, there were a lot of things that you know, I should have went into the marriage, you know, with being better prepared than what I was. And I, you know, I went in with a lot of selfishness and a lot of bad habits. And, you know, I feel like he was very disciplined, but I wasn't. And so, you know, but, you know, God made it work. It worked for 21 years. It worked for 21 years. But what I'm saying is that a lot of times we think we're ready, and we're truly not ready. You know, we want what we want, and we're like, okay, I want to get married. You know, I'm ready. But the Lord said, wait, you ain't ready yet. I'm still working on you. And that's what he's doing right now. So I'm thankful, y'all. Like I said, I'm going to be a whole lot better this go around. I'm going to be better. I'm going to be a better wife, a better woman. I'm already becoming a better mother to my grown children, but more caring and understanding. The Lord is still working on me with just being, you know, he's working on me being more patient and more understanding. And a lot of times I'm like, whoo, because I used to, you know, I knew he would always handle stuff, so I'd be like, okay, I'm just gonna go and act like I'm tired, and he'll deal with it. I can't do that no more. God said, now it's your turn. He said, it's my turn now. So, you know, I'm thankful for him, how God sent him to me. And like I said, he was a good husband. He's good to me, and he was good for me. He's both. But he in heaven now. And like I said, you know, me and the children got life to live, and we living it every day. God helping us live it, and he helping you live it too. So as always, I pray you always hear Jesus speaking through me. I pray you had a beautiful, blessed Saturday. Y'all, it's 76 degrees here, and I'm gonna get out this parking lot, because I always just park somewhere and eat a bite. So I'm gonna be eating and driving, and I think I'm gonna head on home, because I don't really, I sort of want to go to the thrift store, but I don't know. I sort of want to go, but I sort of don't, because I feel like it's super crowded there today. I feel like that, because whenever it's pretty like this outside, it's packed. That store be packed. So I will catch back up with y'all later. I pray y'all always hear Jesus speaking through me in all these videos, and I pray somebody is blessed through this video. I always try to be honest. I am honest. I ain't making none of this up. This ain't at no book. It's straight from experience. That's what it is. So Have a beautiful, blessed Saturday in the mighty name of Jesus. Thank y'all for listening and for subscribing. Bye-bye.